It's starting, and we're here. We're live.
Hey, we're live again over here. Awesome.
Hi, guys.
Nice.
Welcome back to Horror Metal Cast, our lucky number 20th episode. And thanks for tuning in on our brand new channel. So, yay.
Awesome. We got our own channel here. This is cool.
I know, very cool stuff. Thank you guys again tuning in, and definitely subscribe to the new channel so that you don't miss out on anything new. Welcome peoples to the chat. Adrian is already here. Hello, my friend.
Adrian, what's up, brother? What's going on? It's nice to see you here finally.
So we have a heavy roster tonight on stuff that we're going to be talking about. So we can kind of start it off with a new trailer, the new trailer, but like a new trailer for Jordan Peele's Us just came out recently this past weekend, and it kind of showcases more of what we can expect from his movie next month. So I kind of was into it because my initial thoughts on the trailer was that it was going to be about like evil clones or something of that sort, but it seems to be the buzz on the internet that it will be about evil doppelgangers. Okay. So that's kind of cool. And I was bored a little bit this morning, and I was kind of researching like doppelganger mythology and stuff like that. And it was just very interesting to me how the concept of doppelganger has what used to be very deep rooted in myth and horror and superstition, and even the evil and everything like that. Now, when people say doppelganger, they seem to, it's whimsical. You know what I mean? Like doppelgangers now are like, hey, you look like me. Haha, you're my doppelganger, when that's not it at all. You know, back in the day, doppelgangers were like omens. They were bad omens, or they were considered to be a signal that you were going to die, or that your doppelganger would kill you and take over your life, you know, things like that. And I found it very funny how nowadays we misuse the word so much, you know, because a doppelganger is supposed to be your twin, you know what I mean? And now if someone looks like you, they're considered a doppelganger.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I just found it very interesting, and I just wanted to kind of talk about that for a second, which I said my little piece on it. I think that it will be a cool concept to explore in that movie. A couple years ago, there was a movie that had come out. Lena Headey, who plays Cersei on Game of Thrones, she was the main character in it, and I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but that was a really good doppelganger movie exploring the concept of you have these people that are you that are coming to kill you and take over your life. And I really enjoyed that. I'll have to look up and find the name so I can share that with everybody. But moving on to other horror news, Haunting of Hill House, Joe's personal favorite, has been officially renewed for a season 2. And that is going to be covering Bly Manor, which is another old book, just like Haunting of Hill House was. I believe it was Henry James, The Turn of the Screw. And so that is supposed to be, season 2 is supposed to be loosely based on it. So what are your thoughts on this, Joseph?
I absolutely adored that series, and it was just, it was great from start to finish. I mean, the whole line that they were following was right. It was my proverbial cup of tea, you know, and I really enjoyed the build on the characters, because they didn't, the producers and the directors actually gave you time with each character really intimately to get to know them. And they spun it so well together. You know, it was the transition from character association of characters. So, you know, you get to know these characters was so smooth and subtle. And, the segues were so unseen, that they threaded it together so finely. And when it was all knit together, you know, the culmination was Hill House itself at the end. And if they're going to, and I thought to myself, that house could be a fucking series by itself. You know,
Yeah.
that house has so much history probably, and there's so much going on that is unexplained, forwardly explained. There's a lot of subtleties in there. You got to watch and pick up on things.
Yeah.
Right.
I really enjoyed how the first couple of episodes spotlight each sibling in its own, in their own right, and
Yes.
kind of explore not only who they are as adults, but how they were as children as well, and what makes them the adults that they are, whether they're the tortured soul or the cynical doubter, or the fretful, anxiety-ridden sister. And so the character building in Hill House for me was wonderful, and I really, really enjoyed that as much as I did the story as well.
Exactly. I think that all right. For example, you could have an author telling a story about a family sitting in a funeral parlor, and it's really macabre scene, like the ending of the series, the last 2 episodes. One of them was based in a funeral parlor. So you could have that author telling the story, or that writer telling the story of the family sitting there, telling a family joke that's only known to the family, and without giving you any background, without giving you anything, and just throwing it in there and expecting you as a viewer to just come up with whatever you want and put it in there. Okay, that's scenario number 1. Scenario number 2 is dumping heaps and barrels of useless stuff on top of you to drone that point into you. There's in my opinion, there's a very fine line when you do that to get the point across subtly and neatly. More importantly, very neatly, and very convincingly. They told something about a childhood event that went on. They do the pan back to childhood. And when they do it so tastefully and so smoothly that you ingest it without even realizing it. And the things that you see become subliminal. You are just, through osmosis, what's going to happen because of what you saw, but you didn't see, but you saw, and obviously I've had way too much caffeine.
Lots of smoking guns there. Like, the hints and the foreshadowing are definitely done well.
Yeah. I really enjoy the story building that they do with that series and the way it was told. And I fell in love with it after the 2nd episode, and I haven't loved anything like that, I don't think, since and believe it or not, this is
The Conjuring.
don't get me started on it. I love The Conjuring. I do. You know what I watched? I think I mentioned it last week, was the movie Poltergeist again, for a second, and that would spin into 80s movies, and that's a whole other show.
We'll just have a full 80s night one night. I'll even do like Cyndi Lauper hair or something. Yeah. I don't know.
I think it would be great if they would bring some of those movies back now. Poltergeist now with all the technology.
Well, they did. I believe Sam Rockwell was in it. I could be wrong. A couple of years ago, they did a Poltergeist, and I actually fell asleep during it. It was very watered down. It didn't captivate me. It didn't excite me. And
I didn't even know.
A lot of the times, and this kind of does tie back into Hill House conversation. We're not going off topic here, people. Don't worry.
I'm a squirrel. There it is. It's going.
Like, thinking about child actors, they're either really bad or they're really good. I don't feel like there's a happy medium with that. No. And I hated the little boy in Poltergeist. Every word, every facial expression. I just wanted to punch this fucking kid.
The first go around?
No. In the new one.
Okay.
Man, he was just so fucking annoying. And the child actors in Hill House, I thought they were wonderful.
Absolutely priceless.
Some people might disagree. I don't really care. It's my opinion. So, but I thought every actor and actress in the show did a very, they just did a stand-up job, in my opinion. So that leads me to my question for you. Do you think it would be, so they haven't announced yet whether or not, because you know American Horror Story, how every season they use the same ensemble cast plus add a few people here and there, and they just cast them in different roles. So do you think that would be a good direction for Hill House to take as they transition into Bly Manor, or do you think they should completely recast?
No, I think they should absolutely keep the cast they have. That is magic. That is pure, in my opinion, that is pure magic. That cast was perfect.
I mean, they all work really well together. And I mean, even if you add in some new people, maybe take one or two people away, at the same time, they're going to have the opportunity to play new roles and breathe new life into new roles in the second season. But I think that all of the actresses and actors' chemistry is there, it's very, and it's the same thing with American Horror Story. When you have that core cast, that has great on-screen chemistry with one another and they work so well together, why ruin a good thing?
Exactly, Stevie. That's a great point. That is absolutely the point that needs to be made. Don't rework the wheel if the wheel is spinning just fine. If it's not broken, do not fix it, people. Leave it the way it is because it is perfect just the way it is. It's been many, 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 many years since I've seen anything capture my attention the way Hill House did, and albeit, and I'll bare my soul with you, okay? I'm going to get totally honest with you. Netflix binge watching material for me is usually like, I don't want anything to do with it because it's usually fluff. Or, it's just crap. Hey, you got 9 days to kill. Here you go. And they just stuff the shit down your throat and they want you to buy their product. They want you to buy their channel and subscribe to everything. And, so, okay, great. That's great. Some of the stuff is really good. This thing Hill House came out of left field and just like, clocked me dead square. And I was like, wow, nothing has attacked me like that viscerally. And this is a point. I don't know if you're familiar with a writer, another author, Dan Simmons. That's going way back. There was a book that he wrote called Summer of Night. And the opening sequence of that book details a little boy on a bicycle riding through suburbia, American suburbia, Americana, in the 50s. And you could see this in your mind's eye as clear as day, just from reading the words that he's putting out. At least I could, and I did. Nothing has attacked me as viscerally as that until Hill House. And that's including all the King. And I love the King stuff. And yeah, of course, I'm always going to be a fan of the other movies that I love so much. And I can't think of the name because I'm getting all worked up over Hill House. I'm like, I got blinders on for this thing.
Listen, Joe, everybody knows that you're obsessed with The Conjuring. So, like...
See, I don't even have to say it. Everybody knows.
No,
right?
Everybody already knows you're fucking obsessed. I think it's going to be cool to see a new setting, even though it's going to be the same like haunted house type of thing, but going into a different setting with a different storyline. I'm curious to see how they're going to change it up. And I am also very curious to see who they're going to keep around in the cast or who they're going to add in. I think like we both shared our opinions that we think they should keep the same core cast. If they don't, I still think it's going to be good regardless. But that is just how I feel about it. So
I think it's priceless just the way it is. I really don't think they need to change the cast at all. When something works, and you find these, producers all of a sudden find they're onto something amazing, and they want to retool it and build on those characters. You don't need to build. If you guys are listening, don't touch a thing. It's perfect. It is absolutely perfect the way it is, and I absolutely adore it. Do not change. I will find you. Do not change it.
Okay, Liam Neeson.
Yeah. I got a particular set of skills. I drink coffee and get hopped up, right? That's my That's it.
You get all fired up and pissed off.
Yeah. Oh, look, a squirrel. No, Stevie, that was a great point, though, that, you don't want to change a cast, when something works. I agree with the way you see it 100%. So,
yeah, I look forward to hearing more information about season 2. I would assume this late in the game, we probably won't get a winter release for season 2, like we had for season 1. But I mean, that seems to be the case with a lot of shows, like that are on streaming services like that. And I don't mind waiting a little bit longer for things. I mean, fuck, I've been waiting 89,000 years for the new season of Game of Thrones, and alas, it is only 2 months away. So,
yeah.
Yes, of course, we're all about instant gratification or what have you. But if it's good, it's worth the wait. So, like, for example, the second season of Mindhunters that I've been waiting on is finally going to come out. I hope this summer, which is awesome because, the extremely wicked Ted Bundy movie is going to be coming out, and then Mindhunters is going to be coming out, and then you have the I never remember Quentin Tarantino's name for some reason, and like he's a nobody or something. Like, who that guy? And then his Charlie Manson movie is coming out in the summer, so it's going to be a really cool serial killer, and I'm going to eat it up, and I'm going to love it. So that's the thing, though. Good things are worth the wait. So I think I'm okay with waiting a little bit longer for season 2 of Hill House, as long as it's good. If it's not good, then
I am so stoked for that. That's not even no question. There's no question. I absolutely can't wait for that. That is probably that's going to be my second favorite, right? That's running along with The Conjuring. It's up there. It's right there. I know. I'm going to
start timing you, and I'm going to be like, how long can Joseph go without mentioning The Conjuring?
Well, it depends, because if you throw Squatch in there, that's a whole, that could be a whole thing. Right.
I'm just going to, on your tombstone, it's going to be Squatching and Ghosts. That's going to be...
People out there, I'm telling you, he's out there. Nobody wants to believe it, but he is. He's out there. And The Conjuring was real too. So, all right, just FYI, people, be aware. But there's other haunts and horrors in this world that maybe we could shift. And you see where I'm going with this?
I'm
going to segue, people. Look at me go. See how
we're grounding ourselves in reality.
I'm enamoring. Or I'm wallowing and bathing in reality, and I'm going to say it. You want to say it, or should I?
No, you go ahead, because I'm going to cover Kenneth's review, so you can kind of intro everyone.
All right. This is from a band that dates back in, and no, I wasn't in this band. I was in everything else but this band.
Thank God.
Oh, yeah, right, because I'm in a family now. Come on, Stevie, let's go.
Go burn some fucking churches, man.
Go burn some shit. No, I'm kidding. It's a joke. It's not real.
But this was a true story.
Huh?
I said this was a true story.
This is a true story, and it took place in Oslo, Norway in 1987. Stevie, take it. Go. You tell them.
Well, no, you know more about. I was a baby. You tell them about it.
All right. The name of the band was Mayhem. Okay. And what happened was they burned a lot of shit down and people got killed. And I'm really sure that's a short the end right now. Oh, look, the hand of God. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, Jesus.
That would be the equivalent. So what happened was back in that day, and because I'm so freaking long-winded, and Steve, have a smoke, Stevie. You got plenty of time. I'm gonna yap for like 3. No. So what? Snort their smoke, people.
I try to vape quietly so that I'm not obnoxious on the camera.
She snort their smoke. I made her snort. See, I still make me laugh. All right, 1987. Stevie was 2. And there were crazy people in Oslo, Norway, and what they were doing was serious. It was really serious. Back in that time, there wasn't a lot of obviously there was no social media, and if you wanted to find something out, you read tabloids, and one of the magazines was Kerrang! And I remember reading that issue in the movie. There was a movie about these guys that just came out, and the name escapes me because I'm thinking about a lot of other things.
Lords of Chaos.
Lords of Chaos, thank you, right. And what happens is this singer has this outpouring of creativity, and all of a sudden black metal is created. Okay, and for those who are not familiar with black metal, it's satanic stuff. You know, if you follow that, I'm not into that, but if you follow it, you know what it is. It's satanic black metal. Okay, that's what black metal is about. And this guy took everything to a different level and decided to make a name for himself. And what he did was kind of coerce, kind of like brainwash people a little bit into going out and committing some things that weren't cool, like burning churches down. There was one guy, and that was a point that I wanted to make, and I'll get to all these, but I have 1,000 points, Stevie, because I was actually around for this. I remember this happening, and it became a thing. To make a long story short, they burned down churches, and they were upping the game against each other. The bass player in the band and Euronymous, the vocalist, were going at it. Varg was a bass player, and Euronymous was the guitarist. The singer committed suicide. Okay, there was a whole storied past on these guys. I mean, it was absolute chaos from the first day that these guys got together, and it got
the singer was named Dead.
Dead, correct.
And he came from Sweden to be the band's lead singer. And this is all from Kenneth's review. Ken is the site runner of Hard Metal Sounds, and he wrote an awesome review that I'm going to cover in more detail. I just wanted to let you know what his name was, and he was obsessed with death. And in real life and in the film, he committed suicide. He cut his wrists, he slit his throat, and then he blew his head off with a shotgun.
Right. He left a note, and the note was that you saw was actually what he penned on the note. In the movie, he penned a note, and that's actually what he wrote. And it was summarized by the police that he did that at the desk when his throat was cut. This guy cut his own throat. He was out there, you know. So what you have was 4 very demented people getting together and running with an idea that they need to be a certain type of hidden society that's going to, you know, stand out against certain things, and they're going to make their mark in the world. And Euronymous really did not believe the things that he was saying as much as a couple of the other members did. Christian was an average dude, you know, and kind of sheltered. I mean, they said I've read things that were written about him in the past. He was kind of sheltered growing up. He was an average kid, you know, he wasn't anything, and he wanted to fit in to this clique so bad that he absolutely like imbibed everything that they did and followed their doctrine and took every word that came out of Euronymous' mouth as gospel, and went out and started committing the things that Euronymous was talking about doing, like burning. Every church should burn, was what he said.
Yeah, you know, that's you bring up a great point here, because Ken mentions in his review that Varg is washed over as a petty and jealous thug, scheming his way into the inner circle with plans to overtake Euronymous' position. And as you mentioned, his real name is Christian, that he so desperately wanted to be accepted into the inner circle that he started the church burnings to impress everyone. And but as Ken says, you know, when he reinvents himself as Count Grishnak, it kind of comes across as pretentious. So I guess in Ken's opinion, that he felt the bulk of the film sagged into an overly angsty disposition between Varg and Euronymous, where there was like this constant one-upper mentality.
Yeah.
And he felt that it took a lot away from the creative process of recording the full-length Mayhem album that viewers only got bits and pieces of in the background.
That's totally true. That's absolutely true. There was a lot of stuff that happened behind the scenes, band wise, that there was always a one up going on. So it was a bit of rivalry there, and it really took away from the band's music, the musical aspect of the band. That suffered after Christian was Varg for maybe 2 years. He really started to turn, and once that happened, he saw greatness in his own head, and he's going to rise to power. And as he's doing that, he's undermining everything that Euronymous built. But you have to, now this is the thing, and this is what I see this, and I don't know if anybody else caught this. These kids, okay, whether it was the 80s or not, these kids, because that's what they were back then. I mean, they were young men. They were in their early, they were teens and then, into their early 20s, were criminals. They murdered people. They burned shit to the ground. They did some really fucked up shit. And at the end of this movie, you actually feel, for them. I'm not going to play spoiler. I'm not going to say what happens.
Well, I mean, it's not really a spoiler. It happened in real life. It's like saying, "Oh, spoiler alert: Abe Lincoln got assassinated." I mean, come on.
But a lot of people, Stevie, you'd be amazed. A lot of people don't realize what's going on there and never really heard of this. But back in, I mean, I can attest, and I'm sure as Ken would, if you lived it, like a lot of us lived this, and we saw this happening, and
yeah.
We realize what it is, but we were there to see it, kind of. And if you weren't there, it's past and it's buried and it's squashed. And it's huge in the metal community, obviously. A story like that is always big in our world. But out of that context, in the mainstream world, it's really, something that got, after everything was done and people were sentenced and whatever else, that was it. The things that happened were really heinous. And there was a point in the movie. I'll go this far. I'll say this much, and I'm sure Ken picked this up probably too. Bard was, when he turned into the Count, when he did the interview with the media, there was such a conflict of interest with him. I mean, he was a neo-Nazi, right? He was a Satanist
and a murderer,
right? And a murderer and a pagan, all at the same time. I mean, at some point, the idealism of one of those facets would clash with the other, I would think, and it doesn't. I don't know how you would make those cohesive. Like how I don't know how that would happen.
Right. I mean, I will say that Ken does state that the movie is not a total lost cause, even though a majority of the story darts from scene to scene, he says, and it struggles to give you a coherent point of view of the events that actually took place. True. But he says that, it's, you don't want to give away the spoiler, but that particular scene, yes. He referred to it as ferocious and extremely gory. And even for somebody like Ken, who's a total horror hound, he did say it's very hard to watch all the way through because you actually begin to feel sympathy.
Yes.
For a particular character.
That was my point. You're actually, you're starting to feel sorry for them. You're getting to know them so vividly that you don't want to see them die, or you don't want to see them get hurt, or you don't want to see something bad happen to them. But
of course, yeah.
But through the movie and in real life, these guys were the ones perpetrating these like really, really heinous crimes. I mean, a guy was murdered in cold blood. I mean, literally like stabbed to death. And come on, you can't. I can't get behind that. And first of all, there's no room for that shit in metal in my book. Obviously, you know, the way I was raised in metal and where I come from with it and the way I feel about it. That to me, it even though, all right, forget about the burnings and the murdering, the rest of it is kind of pandering politics to me. Politics do not belong in music at all. In my opinion, I don't think they do. I don't. Maybe I'm wrong. If anybody out there disagrees with me, please, you know, feel free. I'm always open to suggestion. And I know
Adrian's been given a lot of, you know, feedback. He's been given a lot of feedback here about, you know, the film. He watched it last night. He did also read Ken's review earlier, talking about how that the portrayals of the characters, you know, he also feels that they were so inaccurate. You know, Varg has always denied that he was a Nazi. He read the review and he said Ken hits the nail on the head. He was very, you know, Adrian was very disappointed, but it's not that he was even expecting it to be that good either.
No. Well, I mean, it was a bad story to begin with that it happened. I mean, you can't build, this is an old adage, you can't build a silk purse out of a canvas bag. You know what I mean? And to put it even worse, I'll give you one deeper, you can't polish a turd, right? It was a bad story. It was a really sick thing that happened. Obviously, people want to get around that mentally and try to get into it and see why they did things, or, you know, what was the mindset for people to go and burn churches down or murder people or whatever? You know, what was the mindset? What motivated them to do it? And personally, I don't know if the movie captured it enough. I don't think they focused on enough of the culture, which is hard. I guess that's hard to do, but they should have maybe focused on the culture of that time. And Norway was very secluded at that point. I mean, you know, again, there wasn't mass media. You know, there was no internet, and Norway was way, way out there. You know, it wasn't like, you know, you just hop online and say, "Hey, man, you know, I'll Skype you later," you know, and be in Norway with somebody hanging out, because it didn't fucking exist.
Yeah, exactly.
The only way you saw it was in pictures, you know, in magazines. And, you know, we didn't understand why people would lose their shit so much, you know, to start going out and, as musicians, we're all looking at each other, you know, and sitting in a room in a band one night, we're going, "Man, you don't want to go burn anything down, do you?" No, not me. I gotta have a cheeseburger. I'll go get a burger, you know, and you know what I mean? You know, let's go drink a couple of beers or whatever together, and, you know, but none of us ever said, "Hey, you guys want to go out and commit some really, you know, nasty shit tonight or what?" You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Time, you know?
Well, and it's like you said, you can't make something great out of something like a shitty situation, I guess.
Right.
And Ken wraps up his review perfectly. He says that Lords of Chaos valiantly tried to get it right, but like most films based on true events, the facts get fudged in favor of over glorified story elements.
Yeah.
You know, he calls the horror satanic imagery cheesy, and the teen angst plotline is what took center stage.
Yeah.
And it made the black metal genre in itself appear silly.
Yeah, totally. It totally demined everything that they were about. Again, they didn't go into enough lineage of the area that it spawned from, which was Norway. It was built and designed and made in Norway. That's where black metal lived in the beginning. And then, I mean, obviously Mayhem was the forefathers of that. But there was a whole movement, a youth movement back then, you know, to make that happen. And it's not portrayed really well in the film at all. They show, and they tried with the video stuff, and they were showing, you know,
right.
It was a good attempt. I agree with Ken on that. I do agree with him.
And he said that was one of the biggest drawbacks for him, because the genre is creatively significant for the time, upending thrash and death metal, bringing something new to the table. You know, and he also talks about in the review that it kind of just goes over black metal as in, you know, as a whole,
Right.
and kind of just focuses too heavily on this back and forth, you know, nonsense that was the squabbles, which again, the movie's not about black metal. It's about one particular band, but again, it made an entire genre seem silly. And for people that aren't into the genre, it would turn people off. Like, obviously, if you're a metal fan, you know what black metal is, but to misrepresent it as something,
that shouldn't be either. No, I don't believe that any genre should be, you know, represented in a poor light, or you know, you should be your own judge of it. And I don't think that somebody's preconceived notion of something should be superimposed over you. I believe that you should be able to have, you know, your own thoughts about it and judge for yourself. And when you, because it wasn't, if you weren't there, like in that time frame, if you know, you weren't around it to see it happening, you know, it's hard for you to understand a lot of the things that are going on in there. And I mean, they touched on it. They showed the movement happening. Motorhead was in, you know, Oslo, playing in Oslo on one of the billboards. It was a Motorhead show. That was a big show for Motorhead. That was a noted show. There was a lot going on back then. A lot like Sodom. Agent Orange came out, and they referenced Sodom in the movie. There was a lot of things in that movement that happened that made black metal stand out from the rest of the, you know, genres. That was amazing. I mean, the talent to play it, it was unheard of. Again, I'm going to reference a band, Sodom. I love them. I love them, love them, love them, love them. Sodom's one of the forefathers of thrash and death metal, and you can't. I always nod to the fathers, and they weren't the best musicians, but again, metal was never about musicianship at that point. It was about brutality, okay? It was about brutal. If you were more brutal than the next band, you were the shit, you know? And Sodom came out of left field. So these guys are listening to Sodom, and Euronymous is thinking to himself, what do you do? You know, he was always scheming to get one up, and that was his whole thing. He was all lip service, man. He didn't want to do half of that shit. He just wanted to get the thing out there. And he created his own brand, his own staple. And the musicianship that was spawned from that started a whole generation. He upped the game. He brought the game up to here. It was here. He brought it up to here. And then the rest of them took off and rocked.
Right. So I personally haven't watched Lords of Chaos yet. I did download it this evening from iTunes, but because it is, for anybody who's wondering, it is available on demand as of like 2 days ago or something. But you know, another point to bring up from Ken's review is that, and this goes along with what you're saying, it was hard to pinpoint the impact of black metal outside of Norway, and it all felt very isolated into an underground movement, with musicians like Necro Butcher or Hellhammer hardly getting a mention. And Adrian also brought this up in the chat. Faust was in other bands like Emperor and Thorns, but all you are told in the movie was that he stabbed a gay man in a park.
That's it, right?
To make them look more monstrous, you know.
Again, that was just to push the point and get people on board with the guy being a heinous monster, a villain for the movie. But you know what? These guys all went on, you know, most of them went on to do other things. And Mayhem itself was one of the forefathers, you know, of that genre. And I nod to the music, the insightfulness of the music. I don't condone, obviously, you know, what they did. I'm not into burning shit down and wrecking things or whatever. That's just me. It's never been about that for me. I believe that had they just stuck to music, you know, that they would still be around and, you know, and enamored as a god, you know, in the metal world, because they were absolutely beyond cutting edge. It was something so different. And Norway, again, Ken is absolutely perfectly right. It was isolated. It was away. It was something that wasn't like touchable or very tangible for us here. But they made it seem like it was just like in the movie. To me, it seemed as if they made it appear that there was like 12 18-year-old kids running around, you know, all of Norway, you know, and that was it. That was the whole family. You know, that was it. There was 12 of us and we're on 8-hour shifts. No, man, this was a fucking movement. It started in Oslo and it swept fucking, you know, Sweden and everywhere else. So it was huge. And Nordic metal, you know, obviously was born. And, you know, you can't look at them and say musically that they shouldn't have been there, because if they weren't, a lot of the things that, you know, people love today wouldn't be out here in metal, especially in extreme metal.
Right.
As people, I mean, can't you just build a bonfire, dude, and get some fucking hot dogs? You know what I mean? I gotta go setting shit on fire.
Yeah. I mean, and that's where I look forward to watching the movie. I'm going in with very low expectations, obviously. So perhaps I will enjoy it more because I don't have high expectations. I still want to see it regardless of, you know, negative feedback that I've heard from it from multiple people so far. Right. And again, like Ken said, it's not a total lost cause, but
no,
you kind of expect a little bit more. But, you know, also Adrian, just to kind of say here, he said that for him, well, I'm pointing at myself, but I'm speaking for you. For him, the originators of black metal are Venom, Bathory, Sodom, Hellhammer, who later became Celtic Frost, Sarcophago, which I've never heard of that in my life.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right.
He's right.
Yeah, so just, you know, right. Just to put that out there, some other bands that, you know, made a name for themselves in that subgenre.
I posed this question to the chat room. Adrian targeted expressly. Do you not agree that at that point it wasn't about musicianship? It was about brutality. It was about being brutal. And it wasn't as if one band was trying to outdo the other in brutality. It was just that there was a lot of bands coming out at one time that were fucking brutal. And you were able to see a hierarchy of, you know, who was the most brutal. And Mayhem just happened to be on the forefront of that wave. They were one of the bands on the forefront of that wave that were doing things that were beyond brutal. It was like insanity.
Well, and that makes perfect sense, because when you have a time where that's what everyone's doing, everyone's one-upping each other, even members of the same band, and everyone needs to be more vicious and more brutal and more what grand gesture can I do to get attention, you know, or to be famous or whatever it is, you know. This is why perhaps a black cloud has come over the subgenre, and why it's misrepresented in the film is because they made a name for themselves by being so over the top, burning churches, killing people. Exactly. You know, the list goes on. So that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I mean, I watched a lot of those bands happen. I mean, I remember when Venom, their first record was released here, and I picked it up at an old store in it was Rock and Roll Heaven. Incidentally, one of the first guitar players from Overkill, Bobby Gustafson, worked at that particular store. So we would all tool down there and hang out with him, and, you know, check out all these new vinyl things coming in. And obviously, I remember the first Venom record coming out and just going, these guys are fucking insane, man. You know, but Cronus didn't go home and, you know, grab an axe and go out and, you know, this guy and start whacking people down in the street. You know, they believed in whatever they believed in. And even if they were into black magic or whatever, was because at the point they were, you know, they were touting it. They didn't put it out there, you know, and try to force everybody else to believe what they believe. They just did what the fuck they did, and they were amazing at it. They were great. So Mayhem took it that step further. I guess they had more of a point to prove to themselves and to anybody else around them, maybe, and they decided that they were going to do it on a grand scale, rather. And they had a scheme. And to me, it seems as if it obviously backfired pretty well on them. And,
yeah, I think.
Right. Had they just, you know, put records out like the rest of the bands, perhaps it wouldn't be, you know, what it was. But I absolutely agree. I remember Hellhammer. Incidentally, Adrian, this is for Adrian. And you'll know the song, Aggressor from Hellhammer was the third song that I ever played out in public forum. The very third song. The second song, just so you know, was Buried Alive by Venom. And the first song was Ace of Spades by Motorhead. Those are the first three songs I ever played out in front of people, and that was in 1982. So I do absolutely agree with you and nod to those bands as forefathers. They are absolutely they are the fathers. You know, that's it. There's no question.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Adrian did say that he felt that he said it was like that with Euronymous. A lot of them in the Norwegian scene distanced themselves for the church burnings and murders.
Yeah. They that whole movement musically was kind of shunned because of that. A lot of people didn't want to get involved in it. A lot of people that were there didn't want to be part of that or known for that. So there was a time that, you know, it was slow, let's say, for metal coming out of Norway for that reason, you know. And he's right. A lot of people did. They didn't want to touch it. They didn't want to be involved in it. Would you? Honestly,
I was about to say you really can't blame people for distancing themselves from such atrocities. You know what I mean? I mean, think about like modern day stuff where people are out of their fucking minds doing ridiculous things. And I can't imagine wanting to fucking go be friends with these people or buy their records or watch their movies or their TV shows when you're planning attacks on your own self. You know what I mean? I'm not going to bring anything up from recent news, but I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. Just being silly here. But, you know, I absolutely agree to distance yourself from something like that. Absolutely. Because you don't want people to think, oh, well, if I listen to black metal, I'm a fucking satanic murdering fucking psychopath. You know that, I mean, it makes perfect sense to distance yourself from a situation like that.
I couldn't agree more with you. All right. In the beginning of I don't know if I would call my music a career, but I will.
Hey, it is. You do it. You do it.
I'll say career. In the very beginning, if you go on my Facebook page, there's actually pictures of me in a band from 1982 or 83 up there. That band was Necrophile. That band had black metal trappings. And if you plumb the depths, you'll see crosses that were, you know, the wrong way, and you'll see some things. And we never believed in all of that. It was I don't want to say it was for shock value, because that wasn't. It was just something that was something that just kind of happened, and we didn't plan it to happen that way. It just kind of did. Somebody presented something in a piece of artwork, and it looked really cool. And I'll be honest with you. You know, we went down the line with this for about 2.5 years. Something really weird fucking happened, and I'm like, I'm done. You know, I don't want anything to do with it.
Conjuring again.
You know, the laundry machine spinning the opposite way now, and you know, lights are flickering on and off. You know, the gas jets are coming up, and you know, no, none of this really
Did you sacrifice somebody?
Yeah. I just, you know, I was sitting here one day, Steve, and I said to myself, you know, why don't I go out on a, like, you know, a murderous rampage and burn some churches down? I thought to myself, nah, how about no? Yeah. So I didn't. But I understand. So just, I mean, I say this not to date myself because I would date myself because I'm awesome. No, I'm kidding. That's a joke.
You date yourself every episode of the podcast. And we're bragging.
I'm below camera. I'm not even going to show my head anymore. I'm done. That's it.
You're bragging. You're like, I know everything about everything. I've been here for 800 years.
I sound like an old fart, right? I know, I'm getting bad. I remember when we played metal without shoes on. We didn't even have feet when we did it. You know, the old Gramps with amps thing going on here. You know, I actually put that question to the guys at DTA last night. We had a reunion, and I said to them, "You guys going to be Gramps with amps out here, or what? You going to rock it out?" You know, I totally put them on the spot live. Because I'm horrible with that, and everybody knows it. The guys in Eat Lead hate me. I go live every time we, you know, I'm here. But yeah, no, you know what? I do date myself, and it's just that I remember all this stuff, and I remember like it was yesterday. You know, I really do because I had a whole lifetime in metal, and I love it, and I love the craft, and you know, I remember these things, and when you see them portrayed in front of you in that fashion, you know. It's going to do one of two things. It's either going to piss you completely off and be like, yo, that's not the way this shit happened. That's not right. It's totally wrong. Or they nailed it. So you have to be the judge of that. Stevie, you haven't watched it yet, and you're going to. So you're going to tell me next week what you think.
My own opinion on it, of course. Anybody who knows me knows I've got an opinion about everything.
I want it.
Yeah, I'm going to go with, see, I have a habit, and for anybody who follows my reviews on HMS or the blog, is that I get so hyped for shit, and then it just lets me down. And so I have to break that habit, because I will watch a trailer and I will be like losing my mind and obsessing over something until I get a chance to look at it. So I've tried, and that always happens when something sucks really bad for me. I get so pissed because I'm like, God damn it. I waited however many months, insert amount of time here, where I was looking forward to it. And you had one job, and that was to not disappoint me. Don't let me down.
Right.
And I just get so pissed off about it. And so I have to stop doing that. So perhaps.
No, you don't. No, you don't. No.
Let's just hear me out. So perhaps I go into Lords of Chaos with a little bit lower expectation, because I was like, whoa, I was stoked. I was super, and even a couple of episodes ago when I first heard that it was coming, and I was so stoked. I was so excited to watch the film. And now that I've heard your opinion and Adrian's opinion and read Kenneth's review on it, I'm like, my expectations have dropped drastically. Awesome. And not a bad thing. It's not. And see, that's gonna lead me to this about Ken's review.
Okay. Which was awesome, by the way.
Oh, bravo, sir. And I posted the link in the chat for everybody to click on it, either if you're watching live or tuning in later. So a lot of people think bad reviews are not good. Oh, don't ever leave a bad review. No, bad reviews are wonderful because, number one, it's constructive criticism if the review is written well, obviously. If somebody just goes, this shit sucks, you know, you're
right.
Wow, thanks. You're doing a really good job there. The world a better place. If the review is written well and your opinion is expressed in a way that grants constructive criticism to where you respect the person, you just really think this could have been this way, that helps a person grow. That helps an artist grow, whether you're a writer or a musician or a director or an actor. It helps everybody grow. there's no such thing as bad press. And I think with movie reviews such as this, it also helps. Like, see, it didn't sway me to not watch the movie. It didn't say, oh, I'm not going to waste my time on this shit. No, I'm still going to watch the film. I just have a different perspective going into it. And
Right.
I also have different expectations. So that way, if I had gone into it with my expectations up here, I probably would hate it. But now that I'm down here, I'm probably going to say, you know what? It's decent. It's a decent film. And
I'm
I'm
sorry.
done.
I just wanted to say that I'm hoping that anything I've said hasn't crushed expectations of it for you or anybody else. I was merely trying to point out things that I observed in the film, and
oh no,
you know,
exactly everything that you also said about it, were all valid points expressed in a way that made sense.
Thank you, appreciate it. I think that if you go at it in an unbiased way and you don't have any hype for it, you're going to find that while it's not an A+ movie, I think you'll enjoy it. I enjoyed it. I mean, there's a lot of good qualities to the movie. And as Ken mentioned earlier in his review, the gore is very good. He's right. There are parts where I was like,
a gore flick. I really do. So I'm glad that's there.
Very realistic. I'll nod to them in that respect. It's not a bad movie. It's not The Conjuring.
how many minutes was that, guys? How many minutes did Joe go without mentioning The Conjuring?
I didn't say Sasquatch, right?
Oh,
I
mean, no, now you fucking did. Oh,
but
God.
I'm hoping that you do enjoy it, Stevie. I really do. And I'm going to, next week, people, we're going to hear Stevie's thoughts on this. I'd really like to know what you think of the whole thing and, what it means to you to see it personalized as it is in a movie.
Yeah.
I want your take on it next week. So, and that's it. I'm calling a shot here. We're going to hear Stevie's take on it next week.
Well, you'll get it. You'll get my take on it. You sure will. I love talking and expressing my opinion, as I've said so many times. So,
well, that's how we started.
I know exactly.
This is our 20th episode.
I know. How fun, guys! Thanks for keeping us going.
Yeah, God bless you. I can look. One thing we need to rectify is I cannot see the chat, and I'm not. I need to
teach him something. I don't want to teach him how to look at the chat.
You gotta teach. I know I need lessons. Help me. I need lessons. I don't know how to do it. And
I have to teach people how to use technology every day of my life. Google it. Real quick, before we wrap things up, I just want to tell for anybody that is interested, you can read Kenneth's full review at horrormetalsounds.wordpress.com. Check it out on the HMS blog. And then also a call back to the very beginning of the show when we were talking about, or I was ranting, or not really ranting, but kind of raving maybe about doppelgangers. And I said I couldn't remember the name of the doppelganger movie that I really enjoyed. It was called The Broken. Came out in 2008. It is really cool. Watch it. It's on Amazon Prime and stuff like that. So why wouldn't you watch it?
How about Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
That's an alien movie, though.
Aliens are cool. Sasquatch may be an alien too. We're gonna have to find out. I'm segueing. You never know. Yeah. I can't believe it's 20 episodes in, Stevie. This is just amazing. This started poolside in Florida together.
Yeah.
And we have not shut up since. And it's great.
And it's awesome. And I really thank everybody for tuning in every week and listening to Joe and I talk shit and about everything and anything ghosts and zombies and squatching and metal and burning churches and whatever other weird shit we talk about. Thank you guys.
Chicken feet, all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
There's a variety of stuff here.
Yes, you guys rock. Thank you so much. Even if Adrian is the only one who ever talks in the chat to me.
That's all right. Adrian can talk. He talks. He comes in on a lot of shows.
That's why Adrian is our #1 fan, because he is like the only one who ever talks. Sean used to talk in the chat. Sean kind of disappeared, and that's understandable with everything that happened with the hurricane, poor thing. But
we'll get more people in the chat. That's a promise.
Yes,
and when
guys,
we do,
don't be shy, because guess what? I look and I can see how many people are watching live. So you're not talking. I mean, if you're driving, please don't talk to me in the chat. But yeah, don't be shy. We're like the weirdest, like down to earth. Like, I don't give a shit. Just you can go in the church, in the church. Jesus, you can go in the chat and turn it down.
Stevie, have you been in the vino again? Come on.
No, tonight was coffee only, I promise. I had a really bad hangover yesterday. There's no way I was drinking today. But with that being said, we have reached the end of our time today. And thank you so much for stop laughing at me. I'm over you.
She's adorable. Isn't she cute? She's adorable.
Oh, thank you. Oh God, Adrian's laughing at me too. Fuck you both. Anyway, guys, again, thank you from me and Joe. You are all amazing. Next week, I don't know what we're going to be talking about, something fun, and I will be posting the link. Guys, please share the new channel. That way we can move our subscribers from Joe's channel to the new one. Make sure you subscribe, and if you want notifications, click the little bell. As soon as I get a better webcam, I will start posting movie reviews on here, and Joe will also start doing some metal reviews. So keep your eyes peeled. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on the awesome shit that we have coming down the pipeline.
I don't usually pop like products, and you know what I mean. We're not looking for any sponsors. Well, we would if they were like food, because we love food.
I like food and I like coffee. I like wine.
I got a new toy in the mail today. This is a GoPro 7, and so I may be doing some live stuff, some reviews on my own too outside. I'll post them here, obviously. Live in the area. I guess real quick, a note for Adrian, obviously, because he's one of the people that bought one of the DTA CDs. I got a repress coming. It should be here within a week. They're in press now. They're going to probably be done in press tomorrow and ready to ship tomorrow. So within a week's time, I should have them in hand. The name of that record is No Rest in Peace. That is the middle album. There's going to be a first album, 7-songer, and then the last 7-songer to come out, which this was the T-shirt for. No, that is not my face.
Oh, that's cool though. It looks good.
This is the old shirt. This is one of a kind now, because there was only 50 of these printed, but I'm going to have more printed, I think. I would like to, but I did want to let Adrian obviously know, because he was one of the people that actually was nice enough to purchase DTA CD. They will be in next week, and I'm very excited. We had a fucking awesome reunion. All that shit's on my page. We'll talk about all that maybe next week. There's so much, me. I think I don't know. I may have been in Motorhead at one time. I don't know. I can't remember.
Joe's been in every band ever at one point.
Never in Motorhead ever, okay? That's not, it was a joke.
No, I wanted to start like a Joseph Moore rumor mill. Like, I wanted people to be like, oh, Joe Moore? You mean the guy from Nirvana? Like, just like, because people like are so stupid and they will literally believe anything. I could walk down the street right now and probably say like, hey, you remember that band from the 90s? And that drummer that went on to be with the band, the Foo Fighters, and people would be like, yeah, what's his name? And I would just say Joe Moore, and they would not even know I was not right, because people just don't care anymore.
Was that dude in Nickelback? No.
Even if you were rumored to be a Nickelback, this podcast would be canceled. But
finished here.
Anyway,
I got 100 announcements for next week. There's even more stuff coming, and yeah, there's a plethora of shit. I want to make a point real quick, Stevie, real quick.
Yes.
And that is about the projects that I play in. Okay, I know I play in 1,000 projects, right? Each one of these projects is very near and dear to my heart. I love what I do. I love the people that I play with, and I don't think that I'm hoping that people don't think I'm it's not like a disloyalty thing. The people that I'm playing with in all these bands, we've all known each other for many, 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 many years. And it's a way for us to get all of our stuff out of our systems once and for all and, get it out there. So with that said, I'm going to be announcing something that may take place either midsummer or late fall, something that I'm kind of planning. It's going to be a little thing. And I'm not going to say too much about it now, but just keep in mind what I said tonight, and going forward, you'll see. As always, I'm a cryptic fuck. What can I say? Can I tell you? I love everybody in the chat room. I can't see you. Stevie's not going to teach me. I'm going to figure this out. I will see you. I will get in there to see all of you people, and I'm not going to bother Stevie once because she's awesome. And I want to say thank you to everybody. And Stevie, take it home. You did a great job.
Thank you guys for another awesome episode. Thanks for tuning in, either live or after the fact. Sticking with us this long is amazing. And remember, subscribe, share with your friends, get people to the new channel, and we will see you next Monday. Same place, same time. Keep it creepy.
Be heavy.